Caitlin, this is Ben, and we've been married for 15 years.
Yeah. We've got 5 kids, ages 13 all the way down to 1.5. And our story of brokenness started in 2012. My story individually starts when I was 12 years old. That was my first exposure to what I would now call pornography. And from there, curiosity led to years and years of guilt and shame, acting out. And unfortunately, what I thought I had fixed on my own wasn't. I brought it into our relationship.
When I discovered everything that had been going on, I just felt really sad. It's kind of like you feel this loss of time and you're just grieving and trying to navigate what it's going to look like in moving forward. We had a mutual friend. When I was talking to her, she was like, hey, you should try Restore Tomorrow. And I was like, what is that? Like, that's so cool. And she was like, oh, it's this podcast that Charity and Clinton have, and you get to hear different stories of healing or speakers that can help you along your journey.
One of the most impactful episodes of this podcast for me was right away. It was his side. I'd never heard the depth, vulnerability, and just honesty coming from someone who's experiencing something that I've felt for so many years. Be able to put words into it that made sense for me, and also gave me permission to be able to start to tell my story.
So the one thing that I really appreciated is that you felt like you were sitting in a room with Charity and Clinton, or if the guest speakers were on, you just really felt like you could engage with them. Like anything that was being talked about on the podcast was perfect. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling triggered. And then they would have one episode that talked about that.
So I think the podcast really just allowed me to start to understand the words that were behind the feelings I was experiencing, and then honestly share and express things in a way that was meaningful and intentional and true. I just didn't have words for it before.
Yeah, I think that the experience that we had as a couple listening to them is that even if we were listening to ones on different days, it created a conversation for us, for me to have grace and understanding of what he was going through, but also for him to know what I was going through.
I think another really unique thing about this podcast is how intentional both Clint and Charity were in making sure that each podcast, and as the series progressed, maintained a balance of his side and her side and experiences, where you could really start to understand and connect for myself what I was experiencing or had experienced, but also gain insight into Caitlyn and her side of the story as well.
I would say last year, the first year of the journey of healing, my word was, I am capable. And so for Ben and I, it was just like, I'm capable of getting through this. The podcast was helpful in that. This year was the year of saying that I can embrace it. So I can embrace God's love. I can embrace our journey and accept this is part of the process. I would say with the course that was helpful for us as a team was to be able to sit down and watch a video together, to talk together, to communicate, answer questions together. I would say the courses, you just dive right in. Like, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. And it was great. I loved that. It just became so real so fast. And then also for me, I would say about week 5 is when I hit a point where I was feeling led to go to, just through the curriculum, I got to a point where it was like, hey, you need to start healing and moving forward. What does that look like? And the workbooks really pushed me towards just sitting in my pain and just allowing myself to heal where it was hard. And that actually has been huge in us moving forward.
Yeah, I think, some of the really memorable and impactful things just is, that time, right? And it was focused, intentional time, no distractions. I mean, that's what we were about, really investing in us. We had to sit in the suck in a lot of those different modules and different weeks, brought up a lot of different emotions and a lot of different feelings. But it brought them to the surface, it gave them names, and beyond that, it gave us really helpful tools to continue to move us forward. So when we first started this journey, there was a lot of unknown, right? I'd been directed to places that were unhelpful, dead ends, places where I felt like I had to do so much on my own. When we made the connections to, the podcasts and really the course and a lot of the journey all the way along, finally felt like I was moving. Finally felt like I had true understanding of where I'd been, where I'd come from, where I wanted to go, my value, and who God made me to be. And ultimately, it brought us together. It connected us on a much more profound, deeply impactful intimacy level.
I think that when we started doing the podcast, it gave me a sense of hope. And I think that when we started doing the work of the 8-week course, it just gave me a sense of mental freedom, like a space where we could be real and raw, and I could just let God work.